Fighting games have a reputation for being hard.
Welcome to the real world!
YouTube channels exist just to explain why they're so hard. That made me wonder which fighting game is actually the easiest to get into as a beginner. I decided to find out by throwing myself straight into ranked matches and seeing how much I could win. Not by grinding tutorials, not by watching guides, just raw, clueless button pressing. To add structure, I followed a code I borrowed from trading cards. I make no excuses, every opponent is my teacher, every match is an experience, and I think not of quitting. I gave myself 2 to 4 hours in ranked for each game, and I only picked titles from EVO 2025. That means no old school fighters nobody plays. And to make it harder, I banned myself from looking up anything on the internet. No YouTube tech, no Discord servers, nothing. Just me, the game, and whatever I could figure out. So let's start with the big one. Street Fighter has always been the poster boy of fighting games. Most people quit because they can't win, and once you stop winning, frustration kicks in and you give up. Street Fighter 6 tackles this with modern controls. Instead of complicated inputs, you get auto combos and one-button specials. Basically, training wheels for beginners like me. My plan was simple. Pick an easy character, build a game plan, and stick to it. So I picked Ken and instantly forgot my entire game plan. Like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
KO!
So I switched to playing reactionary instead. At first, I just spammed medium auto combos until I ran into a Honda player who stonewalled me. By pure luck, I discovered my heavy auto combos beat his moves. So I started spamming that instead. And suddenly, I was winning. No practice, no labbing, just pressing a bigger button. Even better, the game has live commentator. And weirdly enough, they actually helped. They'd say things like, at this spacing, anything would hit. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should. It felt like having a coach in the background. And it honestly made me a better player without realizing it. Okay, so Street Fighter gave me training wheel, but what about Tekken?
Oh, got it! It's over! It's over! Tekken won!
This one has a reputation for being both flashy and brutal for newcomers. Tekken has auto combos too, but I couldn't figure out how to turn them on. So I said, screw it, I'll just mash with classic controls. And when it came to picking a character, I didn't pick someone simple. I picked based on vibe. I just watched Collateral, saw a character that looked like Vincent, and thought, yep, that's my guy. Now, Tekken's best feature is its visual. Every punch and kick feels like it could break bones. Slow motion finishers put you right on the edge of your seat. But here's the thing, those same flashy visuals also make it harder for beginners to understand why they lost. Was it bad timing? Frame data? Who knows? Nerds care about that. What I like though is how intuitive Tekken feels, even mashing. You kinda understand your goal. Hit them hard, don't get hit. The game communicates that so clearly, and for a beginner, that's huge. Also, mashing in Tekken, it feels amazing. Other games punish you for it, but Tekken kind of rewards it. And let's be real, beginners mash. I mash. And if mashing feels good, that makes a fighting game way more beginner friendly. So that's Street Fighter and Tekken. Two giants, but two very different approaches to helping beginners. Street Fighter gives you training wheels. Tekken lets you mash and feel OD. But which one's actually easier? Well, I've still got a few more games to test out before I decide. Next up is Fatal Fury. Like Street Fighter and Tekken, it got auto combos and simplified controls. Specials are just a button press or a direction plus a button press. Very beginner friendly on paper. The problem? I could barely test the game. I'm on a strict time limit, and in ranked, I only found 2 different people in total. At one point, I sat in queue for 30 minutes, and when I finally got a match, it got cancelled, which honestly shocked me. Fatal Fury had over 1,000 players signed up for EVO this summer. Yet, when I jumped into ranked, it felt like I was the only person online. From the few matches I did play, I learned they have a mechanic called SPG that lets you unleash a powerful attack. I didn't really figure out how it worked, but it definitely looked cool when it happened. So yeah, Fatal Fury might be beginner friendly, but it's hard to tell when most of my time was spent fighting the matchmaking system instead of actual players. I gotta be honest with this one. I already have some history with Guilty Gear Strive. I played it back when it first released, and the highest floor I ever made it to was floor 9. So yeah, not exactly a pro, not completely clueless either. To warm up, I hopped into a match just to see how it felt again. And I actually won a round, not bad for a rusty start. What I've always liked about Strive is the big chunky buttons. Some of these attacks feel like they reach across the entire screen. Perfect for someone like me who doesn't always know what he's doing. I remember when the game came out, I was jamming it to all their songs. I mean, listen to this. And then there's the Gatling system. Weak attack into strong attack, simple, logical, and it flows in a way that makes sense, even if you're new. Now, maybe I'm a little biased since I already spent time with this game, but here's the real question. Is Guilty Gear actually beginner friendly? Or am I just coping? Alright, let's check the scoreboard so far. Street Fighter gives you training wheels, Tekken is a mash heaven, Fatal Fury, City of the Fatal Q, Guilty Gear, big buttons, big fun. So yeah, each game has its own flavor of beginner friendliness. Some hold your hand, some reward you mashing, and some just leave you waiting. But we're not done yet. Arxis was already cooking with Guilty Gear Strive, so I had to see what they were serving with Grand Blue. At first, I was hunting for that one combo I could spam forever, but I quickly noticed something. I had to be a lot closer to confirm my hits. That forced me to lean more on special mode. In Grand Blue, every character gets 4 special mapped to single buttons. Sounds familiar? Yeah, just like Street Fighter's modern controls. But here, the specials feel like they have way more presence. Pretty soon, my entire game plan boiled down to 3 things: a projectile, a reversal, and a strong strike. That was it. And the crazy part is, that was actually enough to compete. So my takeaway, Grand Blue makes you feel like you're doing way less, but still holding your own. And as a beginner, that left me with a really good impression. Next up, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or at least it was supposed to be. The problem? Nobody was online. Steam said there were 35 players in total at the time, and I wasn't about to sit in matchmaking for an hour just hoping to run into one of them, which is a shame because the game has a super high user rating. Clearly, the people who do play it really love it. So for now, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is going back on the shelf. I'll probably revisit it later, but for this experiment, let's just say it didn't make the cut. Drive, Grand Blue, and now this. Arxis really does not miss when it comes to making fun fighting games. The cool thing here is I didn't even have to hunt for a combo. It was basically built into the buttons. I didn't need to change my controller scheme, and honestly, I was bracing myself for combo practice to be painful, but to my surprise, it was actually super easy to get into. What really hooked me was how the game encouraged me to think ahead. Up until now, I'd mostly been reacting to my opponents and punishing when they overextended, but in Under Night, I started to baiting behaviors, trying to set traps, forcing mistakes, and play the mind game. And that's when it clicked. I wasn't mashing anymore. I was actually learning how to play the mental side of fighting game. Okay, I was mashing, but you get the point. I've got to admit, part of that might be because I've been grinding so many different games in such a short time. My overall game sense is getting sharper, but Under Night was the first one that really made the mind games feel fun. This one was rough. Up until now, every fighting game I played had snappy combo. Press a button, get a hit, maybe even a whole string. But Mortal Kombat 1 flips that on its head. Here, if you want a combo, you've got to input the entire sequence quickly and precisely. Mess up once and you drop it. And honestly, that left me feeling frustrated. I was tilted for most of my playtime. I thought maybe I could just rely on specials or grabs, but even that requires more execution than I expected. And then there's the infamous block button. In theory, it's supposed to make things easier. Press to block. Simple, right? But compared to how other fighters handle defense, it just felt clunky to me. Now, I'll admit, this might just be habit. If I started with MK1, or at least knew what to expect, maybe it wouldn't have felt so bad. It's less about the game being wrong, and more about personal taste. Some people like McDonald's. Others want a dry, aged burger cooked by a world-class chef. Both are valid, but you're probably going to have a strong preference either way. And mine definitely isn't Mortal Kombat. All of these fighting games do have great teaching tools to help you improve. The problem is the way they're presented usually feels kind of in your face. A bad conditioning from the devs, if you will. It's like those ads you have to watch before the YouTube video you actually clicked on. Sure, the info might be useful, but as a beginner, you're just sitting there thinking, why do I even need to practice this? And here's where it gets interesting. Back in 1946, an educator named Edgar Dale came up with something called the cone of experience. Basically, it's a model of how people actually remember things depending on how they learn them. The cone is as follows. People remember 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they see and hear, 70% of what they say and write, and a massive 90% of what they do. Which makes sense, right? You can read guides or watch tutorials all day, but until you actually play, mash buttons, drop combos, and get punched in the face, you won't really remember or improve. That's also why the best learning happens when you can analyze, create, and evaluate for yourself, not just repeat what somebody else told you to do. So after playing through all these games, what did I actually learn? Think about it this way. When you play a story-based action game, you don't immediately start by learning every weapon and combo route. First, you figure out what the buttons do. Then, you unlock new mechanics, get new tools, and gradually grow alongside the character. That's exactly how fighting games should be approached too. You don't need the most optimal combos on day one. You just need to have fun. It's a game, and it should be treated as such. That's why it's so funny to me that in this genre, beginners are told to look up B&Bs before they even know if they like the game yet. Why? Learn it like you would any other game. Start small, have fun, and if it clicks, then dive deeper. So which fighting game is the most beginner friendly? It depends on what kind of beginner you are. For me, it was Tekken. I mashed, it looked cool, and it felt powerful. But hey, that's just my take. What about you? Which fighting game do you think is the easiest for beginners to jump into? Let me know in the comments.